Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of our Fullstack Tax Manager application. And in this episode, we are going to work on our backend. So, in our last video, we did all our forms and finished with our front end. So, we are going to create our backend, then we'll connect it with our front end and wrap up everything. Okay, so before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and also share. Right? Don't forget to also put on the notification so that whenever I post a new video, you get it. You can also buy me a coffee or support CodeWave. Thank you. Okay, so let us create a folder in here. So I'll create a folder as server. You can call it any name that you want, but I will want to call it a server. Okay, then I'll open my terminal. I'll press Control and backtick to open the terminal, or you can also go here. Great. So all we have to do is cd into server. Okay, so now that we are in the server folder, cd into the server folder, and just put npm init. Great. Okay, so the package will be called server, version, everything, index.js as the entry point. That's fine. Continue, and okay, yes. Okay, so if you look inside, you see now we have package.json file, right? Okay, that's fine. So now let us install our packages. Let us install packages. Okay, what are the packages we need? We say npm I. Okay, you can also say install. The I is for install. Okay, we'll need bcrypt.js to hash our password. We don't have to store the raw password like that. We need to encrypt it or hash it before we store it into our database. We'll also use cookies, so cookie parser. We'll also need calls. We'll need .env. We'll need express. We'll need JSON web token. Okay, JSON web token. We'll also need mongoose since we'll be using mongodb. Then we'll need Morgan. Okay, so bcrypt.js, cookie parser, calls.env, express, JSON web token, mongoose, and Morgan. Okay, if there be any other thing, we'll install it. Okay, so it is installing. So we'll create our folders. So we'll need the entry point, which is the index.js, right? So whatever name you gave, then you give that same name, right? Index.js. Okay. We'll also need to group our files. So we'll need models, which will hold our schemas for the database models. We'll also need controllers where we'll put our actions, right? Yes. Then we'll also need the routes. Okay, great. I think that's all that we'll need. Okay. Let's say maybe we'll need also utils if there be any helper functions that we'll need. Okay, so now okay, great. So we have our node modules here, right? So firstly, don't forget to create a get ignore file inside so that in case you push your code to GitHub, you don't add the node modules as well as your environment variables. Okay, so put .get ignore. Okay, and what are the things we'll ignore is node modules, then also .env. Okay, great. Now, if we want to start our application, we will say that npm, then we give the file name, which will be, in this case, index.js, right? Now, we'll use node. So we'll say node, then the file name to start it. But this will start our file. But since we are in development, right, when we make any changes, we can make mistake. And when we make any changes, it will not build it again, right? It will not reload it. Therefore, we'll need to use nodemon, which will reload it once it detects changes in our app build it again, right? Great. So then we'll install it as a dev dependency, right? So we'll put the flag D, capital D, and just put node mon. Okay, so to avoid us stopping and starting our server again. Okay, great. Okay, so in here, we also need one thing called middleware. Middlewares. Okay, great. Okay, so great. So if you check, we have the packages here, and this is our dev dependencies. Okay, great. So what do we have to do? We need to add a script, right? So I'll come here and say start. So start script will be nodemon, right? Then index.js. So whenever we say npm start, it will run nodemon index.js. Okay, great. Okay, we also want to use change the module type. So we'll just say type, right? It should be module so that we can use import statement instead of the require statement. Okay, great. Okay, so I think let us get our database URL, then we begin to roll without delay. Okay. Okay, so go to MongoDB Atlas or mongodb.com. Yeah. Okay, so whilst it is loading, I'll bring it here. Okay, so MongoDB, here. And I have account, so I will log in. I'll go back and log in or sign in. Okay, great. So if you don't have account, kindly create account. So you can sign in with Google, GitHub, or if you use email and password. So I will use Google to sign in. My internet seems to be a bit low or down. The connection is poor, but let's manage. Okay, so I am in. Okay, so what you can do is you can create a new let me close this. Great. So you can create a new project, right? So click on new. If your account is new, you see create a new database. So I'll create a new project. Yes, and I'm going to give it a name as TMDB. Okay, give it a name. You want TMDB for tax manager. Okay, then I'll go to next. Then it says I should create a database, right? So I'll click here to create a database. Okay, my network once again, so let's hang on a while. Okay, so it is taking a while. Okay, so what is creating I think okay, so let us add our environment variable. So say .env, .env. Okay, great. In this .env, we will need node underscore env as node environment, right? And we'll set it to development, right? Since we're in a development mode, right? Okay. To detect which mode are we running in, we'll also need mongodb underscore URI, right? Okay, so we'll get that one shortly. We'll also need JWT token or secret, and that one you can put any string of choice. So I'll just type anything, yeah. And we'll also need port, and I'll be running on port 88,000. Okay, that one too, you can put any port of your choice. Okay. Okay, so now we need to create a deployment, right? Okay, let's go. After this, I'll delete it because I already have some there. Okay, so you can select anyone, but make sure you select free, right? Free, because this should satisfy our need, what we want to do, right? And here you can leave it to default or select whatever you want. Cluster name, you can also leave it like that and just click on create, but make sure you select free. Okay, so create it. Motorcycle, I do not like this sense. Okay, there's another one. Okay, so what do we have? So we need to use username and password. So I will put okay, I'll go with the username and also generate a new password, then copy it. Okay, so and now we need to add IP address. So I'll just put 0.0.0. Yeah, I think now is it 4 or 3? And let's see. Okay, great. Then I'll click on finish, go to overview. Okay, so this will create it. Now whilst it is creating, let us go and continue. Okay, so this, we don't need this. Now let's come into the index.js. Now this is where we'll begin. Okay, so what are we going to do? If you remember, we have changed the module type to, we have changed the type to module, so we'll use import. So we'll import cookies, cookie parser from so import cookie parser. Great. We'll import course from course. Great. We'll also need to import .env from .env. Great. We'll also need express express. Great. Okay, so we'll also need Morgan from Morgan. Great. Okay, great. Now let us configure our .env. So .env.config, and that's all. Okay, so I will put db db connection here. Okay, great. Now let's also get our port. So say port equal to port equal to okay, so port equal to process.env.port or a default of 5000. Okay, now let us create an app. So say const app should be equal to express app. Okay, express. Okay, great. Let's check if our database is finished. Okay, so now it is here. So one there are quick things you have to do. So go to network access. I think network access network. Okay, so we have a user here. I mean, we have our we have an IP address here. So this will allow connection from anywhere, right? Great. You can also put your current IP address to allow connection from only you, only your computer or your machine. Okay, that's that. And if I go to database access also, I have user there who has the read write, in it to in all the database or the admin privilege. Okay, so just come to database and click on connect, then select drivers, right? Okay, and make sure it's nodejs, the latest, and just copy this URL. So click to copy, and that's all. So let us go into here and just put it here. Okay, I'll pin it down like this. And unfortunately, did I copy my password? Okay, so you have your username here and you see password here. So you have to put your password there. I think I have it in my clipboard. Let's see. I want to believe it's this. Okay, so just put your password in there. Okay, and if you want to change the database name, I think after this .NET / you can put tmdb. Okay, I think, yeah. No, let me make it task db. Okay, so that's it, our environment variable. Okay, so do not use my details, because when I finish I'll delete this. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Okay, so now that we have our database, I think we can connect it. So inside the utils, right, before we continue, so let's connect it before we continue. We'll create an index.js file in there which will connect to our database. So we'll need to import mongoose, right? And we'll just say db connection should be equal to an async function, right? Great. Great, an arrow function. Okay, so let's put a try catch. When we get an error, what we are going to do is we're going to say console log. So we can just say clg to the console log, and we'll just say db error, right? Then we put the error. Okay, so that we know that this is coming from our database. Okay, so we'll just say cons it will not import. Okay, let's say await mongoose.connect, then process.env.mongo, I think it's mongodb URI. Okay, and when it goes through, we'll just put a console log that says db connected, connection established. Okay, that's fine. Great. And all we have to do is to spot default db connection. Okay, great. So we can go here and uncomment this, then import it, right? Great. Now because we are using the import statement, make sure you put .js, put the file extension to avoid errors. Okay, great. So now let's continue. Okay, now we need to also use our calls. So we'll say app.use, right? And we'll say calls. Now in this calls, we can specify if we put something like this, then asterisk like this means we'll accept connection from anywhere, but we want to specify where we want to accept connections from, right? So we'll put bracket, then say origin, right? Good. So I'll accept from localhost 3000, localhost 3000. If you have more options, you can put another one, maybe http localhost 3001, right? Something like this. Okay, but it has to be an array to wrap it with. Good. Great. So in here, we accept only connections from 3000 and localhost 3001. Okay. Then the method, we can also put method. What methods do we expect, right? Okay, so we can put that we expect methods like get, right? We expect get, we expect post. Yes, because we post, we expect put, we expect delete. Okay. It's supposed to be, yes, square bracket. Great. Okay, so in our app, we expect get, requires, post request, delete, and put. Okay, any other request that you put through will not come because we'll reject it. And what we want to say, credentials to true. Now, because we are going to use cookies, some browsers do have this cookie policy that if you want to set cookies, it will not allow you, right? So we'll tell calls to, accept credentials. So to set credentials when we want to send the response back to the user. So if you don't set this, the cookies might not be set on your local machine when you log in, and you'll not be able to process the other request. Okay, great. So we also say app.use. Then we say express.json. Okay, great. Okay, another app.use. Then express.uri encoder. Yes, great. Great. We'll say app.use. What again? Now we want to use cookie parser. Okay. Then app.also use. So all these are like middlewares that we want our app to use. So we'll say Morgan. Great. Now in the Morgan, we'll set it to dev, right? So that we will only use it in development mode, right? Okay, great. App.also use. Our app will run. It's okay. We want to precede all our requests with APIs, right? Then the various routes will come. So I will say for here, since our routes are not ready, I'll just say const routes equal to, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, it is not ready, so I'll just put that. Okay. Once we import it, then we pass it like that. So all our requests that will come through will be preceded with /API. So if it's coming from wherever it's coming from before you hit the endpoint, so HTTP localhost 88,000 /API, then / the various routes will follow. Okay. Now we also need to have some middlewares, right? So if you hit an endpoint where the request is not available, or that endpoint is not available, we want the user to know that this endpoint does not exist. So we also need something called route not found, right? Great, not found. We'll create them soon. And we'll also need another one that will say error handler to handle all our errors, right? Should in case an error occurs, we need to handle them. Okay, now when all is set, we will now need to listen. Our app needs to listen on a particular port, right? So it will listen on port, right? Great. Then we have a callback function, which will say console.log. And what are we going to log? That server listening on port, then the port number. Okay, great. So now before we will start it, let's get these two handlers. Or we can comment them for now. Also comment on this and start our app and see. Okay, so if you remember, you just say npm start and see if we'll be able to connect to our database. Okay, so we have an error, which is okay. Server util. Oh, okay. I think I've seen where the error is coming. It's coming from here. Oh, server utils should be /index.js. Great. So you see now that when we save it, you see that it restarts, right? Okay. We are told body paths are duplicated, but we are not using body path. Okay. Okay, so now if you can see, you see that now our database connection is established. So now we are connected to our database. Okay, great. So now let us create the middleware straight up. Yes. Okay, so which one are we going to create first? Okay, so in the middleware, I'll just create error middleware.js. Okay, what is a middleware? Now, if you ask me what the definition I'll give to a middleware is that a middleware, it's like something, an intermediary, right? A function that runs, that has access to the request and the response, right? So for instance, let's say you want to enter into a place. You see there is a security, the security scrutinizes you. If you passes the check, then you are granted access in. So the middleware will also run between functions, right? So when the access pass, then it hands control over to perhaps another thing or serve you with a response. Okay, so this error middlewares will run through, and if there is an error, it will serve the user with the error message that we will customize. Okay, so we'll say cons. So if you remember, we'll say route not found. Great. It should be equal to, now we have the request, as we said, response and next. Okay, so the middleware has access to the request, response, and also the next function to proceed to the next thing. Okay, so let's say cons error should be equal to new error. Great. And we'll just say route not found. Then we'll put the request dot origin. Okay, so the request will be, route not found. Then we'll put where is the request coming from, the original URL, right? Great. And we just have to return response. Great. A response dot status, not this, status. Great. A response status was 404, right? Great. Then we'll call the next function and pass the error. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now, in the next request, we'll have the error handler. This time we'll get the error, the request, the response, and the next. Okay, so we'll say let status code great equal to the response.status code. Now we'll check if the status code is equal to 200. We need to change it to, if it's 200, we change it to 500, right? Else we get the same status code. Okay, great. Remove the pipe. Okay, because it's an error, we don't want to send 200. So if it is 200, we change it to 500 before we send it, because 200 means success. Yes, 200, 201, they are all success. Okay, so let's also say let message be equal to error and the message that we'll get. Okay, so now let us do some check. So if error.name equal to cast error, right? If it's equal to cast error and error.kind kind also equal to object ID, then this error is coming from MongoDB, right? Okay, then this error is coming from MongoDB. So we say status code should be equal to 404 and message should be equal to resource not found. Okay, great. Okay, so now let us return response.status. Great. Then we put the status code dot JSON. Great. So now let us put the message. The message will be the message, and we can also put the stack. Now, what is the stack here? Now, since we are in development, we'll check. We need to get the full message. So, great. So we can send the full message. So, but we'll first check that if the node env, if you remember from our .env file, if it's equal to production, then we will not send anything because in production we don't need it. But if it's equal to development, then we'll print the error.stack, right? So we can get the full error message where it is coming from. Okay. I think this error. Okay, maybe URL encode, great, here included. Let me put extended to true. Okay, great. So make sure you have extended to true to avoid that body parser duplicated or undefined. I mean, to get rid of that error. So I can stop my server and run it again and see npm start. Okay, so that error is gone. Okay, great. So this is our error handlers. So let us export it. So we'll say export. Okay, we'll know export is as default. So route not found and error handler. Okay. So now let's go here and import them. In here. Okay, so I want to believe the names are the same. Okay, great. And this one also. Error handler. I want to believe. Okay, let me just copy and paste it. Great. So let's go and check. Okay, we have the .gss here. That's fine. So far, so good. Okay. Okay, great. So now we are left with okay, let's go. We'll create the other middleware later, the authentication middleware. Okay, so let us begin from here. Now let's begin by creating our models. Okay, so we'll have 3 models: user model and task model and the notification model. So user.js. Okay, so here we will need bcrypt. Okay, great. From bcryptjs. Great. We'll also need mongoose from mongoose. Okay, so we'll say const user schema should be equal to new schema. Okay, which is also coming from mongoose. They will open an object, parenthesis, then an object. Okay, so inside this object, that's where we have the various fields. So we have name of the user, and we need to specify the type. What will be the type? It will be a string. Great, the user will be a string. It will be required. So we'll set required to true, that username is a must field. Okay, so we can say we'll duplicate it and say title. How did I duplicate? Just hold shift and alt, then arrow down to duplicate it. So title will also be required. We can say row. Yeah, user's row will also be required. You can change it according to your need. We say email is required, and we can add another thing that it has to be unique to true. Great. So we can't use one email twice. Okay, great. I will duplicate this, and that will be for password. Great. So password will be required. It will also be a string. I'll change the next one to is admin. Great. That one will also be required, but it will be a boolean. So boolean. Okay, and we can put a default value of false, that you are not an admin, right? Okay, so if we don't provide anything, it will still be false. Okay. Okay, so here we can also put task, right? Now we want to know the task which has been assigned to a particular user, and this will be an array. Okay, so square bracket, then parenthesis, then type. Okay, so the type here will be schema dot types, great, dot object id. So we will only push the task which we have been assigned, their IDs in here. Okay, so we'll reference which one do we reference? We'll reference task. Okay, so the task that me as a user will be part will push their IDs in here, right? Great. Okay. So it will reference this. Okay, and we can use this action to populate all the tasks that I am associated with. Okay. I think. Okay, let's continue. And we also need another one that says active, and that one will also be a boolean of type true. True as default. Great. Now behind the parenthesis here, create another parenthesis and just put timestamp, not time series, timestamp. Great, to true. Okay, the timestamp to true is that so that we don't have to create created add date and updated add date. It will be added automatically. Okay, great. So now that we have that, now we can create methods. But then before that, let us export it first. So say const user equal to mongoose dot model, right? They will pass the model name, which is user. They will pass which schema are we talking about? The user schema. Great. So now then we can say export default default then user. Okay, great. Now let us add some methods. Okay, so now we have user schema. Let us add methods to our user schema. So say pre, and if you understand the word pre means before, right? Yes. And post means after. So before we save, what are we going to do? Before we save the user information, right? Before we create any new user, we'll perform this action, and it'll be an async function, right? Okay, async function, and I'll put in nest here. Then open an object. What are we going to do? We'll first check that if this, so meaning the user that we want to create, if it's modified, right? If we are saving any thing and the password is not modified, we need not to, perform this action. So if we modify the password, what failed? The password failed, right? If we modify the password failed, then this condition will run. You understand? Okay, so if we modify it, then we go to next. If it's not modified, then we don't go to next. Okay. But if you notice that we put the exclamation sign here, meaning the negative statement of this, right? So if we modify it, if it is not modified, right, then we don't continue. We just go to the next action. But if it is modified, we'll not go to the next, but then we'll run this action here. And the action is we need to create a sort, which is to await bcrypt dot gen sort. Okay, generate sort of 10 rounds. Okay, there was a this dot password, right, should be equal to await bcrypt dot hash. Then what are we hashing? We hash this dot password password. Then we pass the sort as well. Okay, so if the password changes, right, if there are changes in it, right, we'll just create a sort of 10 rounds and we hash it and assign it to the password, right? Great. Now, since we are hashing the password, we'll also need a way to compare it, because the user, in the front end does not know we have hashed any password, right? So the user will still put the same password. So we need to also be able to compare and know that it is the same password. So we'll add another method, and this method we'll call it match password. Great. And it will be an async function. Okay, so async function. So we'll take the entered password word. Great. So the password the user entered, we'll take it, and when we take it, we need to return whether it matches or not. So we'll say await bcrypt dot compare, right? So bcrypt has this compare function, so we'll compare the entered password and this dot password, the password that we will fetch, right? So when we fetch the password will be here, and this will be the one the user entered. Okay, then we compare it and return whether it is true or false. Okay, great. So this is our user model. Let us go to the task model. So task.js. Okay, task.js. Okay. So say cons task schema should be equal to new schema, which is coming from mongoose. Make sure it's imported. Okay, so we'll have title of the task, right, which will be type of string, and it will be required. You can create a task which does not have title. And the next one will be date. I mean the date selected for the task. Okay, now that one will be type of date, right? And we can put a default of date new date, okay, which will take the current date. Okay, the next one will be the priority. Okay, and that one will also be a string. The default value will be normal, will be a normal task. And now we will we'll have something called enum, and we'll specify the values we accept. So we either accept whether it is a high, whether it is medium. Feel free to put any kind of priorities you want, or normal, right, or low. Okay, so if you send from front end and it is not one of these things, then you get an error, right? Okay, if you don't send anything, we'll take normal as the priority for you. Okay, so I'll copy this. No, let me duplicate this for stage. So the next one will be stage, the task stage. It will also be a string. It will either be a to do, or in progress, or completed. Great. Okay, so now the next one is we'll need to have the task activities. Okay, great. So the type will be of string. Okay, the default will be assigned. So when we first assigned task to someone, it will be this. So this time I'll copy the enum and bring it. It's a bit long. Okay, so the enum will either be assigned, started, in progress, bug, completed, or comment. So whatever activity type you want to add, you can add. Feel free to add them. Okay, so let me copy this first. Okay, so the activities will be an object, and in that object we'll have type. So the type will be of either this, right? Great. So the type will be of all this. And aside the type, we'll have another one, that is the activity itself, right? Which will be of type string. Then also we'll have date, which will be type date with default as new date. Okay, great. So when I post an activity about this tag, so the type will come, whether it is assigned comment, and the comment itself, or the activity itself. I mean, what I'll write here will come here, and the date will also come, and the by who is posting that. So the type will be schema dot types dot object ID. Great. Then we'll reference the user. Okay, so it will be the user ID, the user who is posting that kind of activity. The ID will come here. Okay, so let's make sure. Great. Okay, then the next one will be subtask. Subtask will be an array. Okay, so in the array, then we'll have the individual objects. So we'll get title, which will be type string, date, which will be type date, and tag, which will be type string. Okay, so you see, we can also do it like this, or put the type, then yes. Okay, great. So aside this subtask, we also have assets, which will be an array of strings. Great. So we can also put it like this. Great, a string array. And we also have team, which will be type team will also be an array of type schema, because we'll put the user IDs here. Okay, great. Then we'll have, I think the last one will be is trashed. So when we delete it, right, we'll have whether the task is trashed or not, and it will be a boolean. Then we have a default of false. It is not trashed. Okay, so when we trash the item, we'll not delete it completely. We'll just change this to false. We'll just change it to false. True, right? Great. We'll change it to true. Now here, we'll also put the timestamp. Should be true. Okay. Then let us export task being equal to mongoose.model task, then task schema, and export default task. Great. Okay, so I hope you understand. If you don't understand it, you can play it back again and understand it. Now let us also create that of the notification, which we can just copy and paste since you get the idea. So noti, I'll just say noti. Okay, notification.js, right? And I'll just paste this here. Okay, so the same thing, we have this. So the team, right? Because it can be one person or more assigned to a particular task. So the team will come here, the user IDs, the test, the message, right? The task which is assigned to them, the ID of the task will come here. And the notification type, whether it is alert or a message, will also come here. And whether it is read or not will also come here. And we pass in this. And the name is notice. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Great. Okay, so now we have our models ready. Okay, so let us go into the route and begin with our various endpoints. So index. Okay. Okay, so in the index here, we'll first import express from express. Okay, then we will have to import user route. Okay, so let us go and create them. We'll have user routes.js. Okay, and also the task route. Okay, so in the user route here, we'll import also express from express. Okay, then we'll just have to say const router equal to express dot router. Great. we'll get the various route, but for now, let us export it, export default router. Okay. I'll copy this, create another route, which will be task route. I hope you are following. Okay, and also do this so that we can go here and import them. So here we'll import user routes from dot slash users.js, and we'll also import task routes from task routes.js. Great. Okay, so in here we also have to export it, export default router. So let's create the router. So const router equal to express dot router. Great. Okay, so what will be the various routes? So we'll say router dot. So we're using express to route our application dot use, right? Great. / user. Okay, so if you remember, we first use the API endpoint, so it will be API / users, then the various routes will come. So user routes. Okay, I'll duplicate this and put this as task and say task route. Okay, great. So this one will be like API / user / maybe login or register, and the same will go for this one also. Okay, so now we can go into our index here and import our route. So say routes from great / route file, then index great. And if I remember, okay, it's here. So keep checking your console to see that your app is still working. Okay, great. So it is still working. So we can say we are done with this. We are done with here. So now let us begin from the user routes here. Okay, what are the various endpoints that we'll have? Okay, so let us create one, then we'll duplicate it for the rest. Okay, so see router dot post. So we first need to create or register user. So register, right? Then we have our register user as the controller, right? Great. Okay. So then we have another one which will be login. So I can say login user, and we have another one which will be logout. So the logout. Okay, and they all will be post requests. So I think I can copy the rest and bring them. Okay, now the app should be protected, right? So I will copy the remaining routes and bring it since it is not that difficult. Okay, so from here we have this is a get request. So you see these are post requests, this is a get request. And this endpoint will help us to get the team members or the users. Now you see we have this protected route and its admin, right? Before. So this is in fact the controller. And these two are called middlewares, right? So when we go to this endpoint, we'll first check whether the route is protected route or not. A protected route means that it is not anybody who can access that route. You must be signed in first or log in first before you can access this. Now, if we mark this as also admin route, means that you have to be an administrator before you can access this. So you cannot access team members if you are a normal user. You have to be an admin. Okay, so you see the difference between here is that you can access your profile. You don't necessarily have to be an admin. Once you are logged in and authenticated, you can access this, right? So this helps us to safeguard our app from anybody entering into any places, right? Okay, so let us create this middleware first. Okay, so I'll go to middleware and say auth middleware.js. Okay. Okay, great. So the things we will need is we'll need to import JWT from JSON web token. Okay, great. So now let's say const protect route, it's equal to, it should be an async function, and we have access to the request, response, and next. Okay, great. Then let's put a try catch. When error occurs, we'll console log the error. Okay, great. So first, let us say let token, yes. Okay, so we'll not assign any value to it yet. So okay, let's initialize it. We'll say token should be from request. So whatever you send the request will bear the token, which from our cookies dot token, right? So there will be a token attached to it. Okay, so in the cookies there is a token. So if the token exists, right? If there is a token, then we'll put another try. Okay, let's go. So it counts decoded token, right? Should be JWT dot verify. So we want to verify the token. Oh, okay. It should be like this. Great. Dot okay, dot verify. We need to verify. What are we verifying? The token that we have distracted from the request. Okay, then we need to pass also our secret. So JWT I think is secret. Okay, so the secret we'll use to sign it, we'll use the same secret to verify it. Okay, so say cons equal to await user. Okay, so we are going to use our user model. So let us import it. Say import user from dot slash model slash user okay dot js. Okay, so user dot find by id. Okay, so we'll find the user by the id, and in the decoded token, the user id, it's inside. We'll push the user id into it, right? Dot select. Now we want to select a particular fields. We don't want to select everything. Okay, dot select. What do we want to select? We want to check whether it's admin and also email. Okay, so we need this. Now we have the username. The username will also, I mean, the ID will also come with it, so there's no need to put it here. Okay, so once we select them, then we can say request dot user, right? So in the request, we'll attach the user to it. It should be equal to, so we say email equal to response dot email is admin equal to yes, response dot admin. Then the user ID, we already have it as from the decoded token dot user ID. Okay, then we just call the next function. Yes. Okay, so if an error occur, okay, I will bring this my error handler. Okay, great. So I'll just return this error. Okay, great. So we'll create another one for the admin. So I'll paste that one. Now it's admin route, also request, response, and next, right? And here, once we have fetch this, because we'll call this one fetch, so we'll definitely get the user into the request here. So we'll just go into the request, fetch the user, and also fetch the isAdmin. And so we'll check that if the user exists and the isAdmin is true, then we go to next, else we just return that you are not authorized to access this endpoint. It's pretty simple. So export, then is admin route, then protected protect route. Okay, right, it's protect route. Okay, so now we can come here and import those endpoints and see this, and also import this. Okay, make sure you put the .js to avoid any error. Okay, so we have an error in our terminal. Says that object id reference task, object id reference task, which is in user.js 912 user.js. Okay, so you see it should be together like this. We have, I think, another, which is register user endpoint. Okay, so those endpoints does not exist yet, so let's begin to create them one after the other. Okay, so I'll close this and close this, then go here. I think I can comment them all, then we go and work on this. Okay, so I'll copy the name, go into controllers. Inside controllers, I'll put user controller.js. Okay, so export cons register, which will be equal to an async function, which will have the request and the response, right? An arrow function. We'll put a try catch in here. Great. Okay, great. Okay, so first we'll check and log in the user, right? Okay, so if an error occur, yes, so we'll just return the error that perhaps okay, so the message should be, let me change this to error.message. Okay, great. Okay, so I want to copy this, comment it. Okay, so that, yeah, we'll use it for another time. So let's go back and import it. Okay. Okay, great. So now let's roll. Okay, so what we need now, it is important to destructure and know the various fields that we are getting when the user send the request to register, right? So we'll get the various options from the user inside the request and the body, right? So the request comes with a body. Okay, and in the body are the various fields that the user want to register, and we'll get the name, we'll get email, we'll get password, we'll get this admin, also we'll get the role, then we get the title. So we'll get all from the body. Now we could have also saved that we could just spread the request, right? When we are creating it, but we need to make sure that we are getting this. So any other field the user will send, will not take it, will only take this, right? Okay. So first, let us check if the user exists or not, right? Okay, so we'll check if the user exists. So if the user exists, should be equal to await. So user, great. So make sure you add the .js, great. .find, by find one, we should find one, and we'll find with email, great. We'll find email, great. Now, when we find the email, so now let us check if it exists or not. If user exists, is true, then we just have to return a response dot status of 400, right? .json. Okay, so in the JSON, we'll have the status, which will be equal to false. So when it is true means success, and when it is false means user already exists. I think, yeah, we can keep it like this. Okay, great. So if the user exists, then we'll return this. If not, then we can continue and create our user. Okay, so we can say const user should be equal to await. Yes, await user dot create. So we'll use the create method to create, right? a document in our database. So here we could have just say request dot body and spread it like this, right? Since the fields here and the ones we have in our model are the same, but we just need to destructure it and make sure we are getting the right field. So we'll say name, email, password, and if you remember, we are not hashing the password here because we've done that on the schema, right? Okay, or the database model. Okay, it's admin, role, and title. Okay, great job. So when it goes through, great. When it goes through, we just have to check if user goes through, right? Then we'll check if admin is true, right? Then we'll create JWT. So if you register an account, right? Now the individual user cannot register account. It is the admin who creates the account for them. So if I create the account and the row is equal to an admin, then I create a JWT for myself. But if I create the account and it is a user I am creating the account, we don't have to create a JWT because that is not the account for me. It was someone, and that person, when that person logs in, that person will get the token. Okay, so that's why we are checking that if the admin is true, then we create the JWT, and in the JWT we'll send the request. We'll also send the user dot underscore ID. Great. Else nothing. Great. So this function does not exist yet, so we'll create it shortly. Then when it is that, we'll just say user password, right, should be equal to undefined. We don't have to send the user password to the front end, so we'll just say it should be undefined. Okay. Then status of 200, meaning, or two, I think, yeah, we can say 201 dot JSON. Then we'll pass user. Okay, then we send the user. Okay, else I can send this response that says that invalid user data. Okay, great. You can also have if cases to check if this any of them is equal to null, then you send back to the user that the fields needs to be not to, it's required. Okay, great. That's what I want to say. Okay, great. So now let us create this function. So in our I think in our utils file, okay, so if you go to the models, if you go into the models, model user, great. You see that we have we don't have the function create JWT here. Okay, so in the utils, then let us create it here in the utils index here. Great. Okay, let me create it here. I'll just say export cons create JWT, which will take the response and the user ID. Okay, great. Okay, so here we'll say cons token equal to JWT, which is coming from JSON web token. I'll say JWT. Great. So JWT dot sign. Okay, dot sign. And what are the various options we're passing? We'll pass the user ID. Then we'll pass process process.env.jwt secret. Okay, great. Then we pass the expires in. We just put 1 day. So 1 day is just 1 day. So how many days, whatever days you want, you can just put it there. Okay, so here, oh no, here should be this also this. Okay, great. Okay, so in 1 day the token will expire. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so now let us send the response.cookie will set the cookie. And if you remember, when we were destructuring it as token. So we'll pass it, we'll send it as token. Okay, then we pass the token. And where is this token coming from? Okay, it's here. Great. Token, it should be comma. Great. Token. Then we'll say HTTP only. HTTP only. We'll set it to true. HTTP only to true. We'll send secure secure to process.env.node.env. No. So node env. So if it's if it's production, right? Great. So secure only will be true if we are in production, right? Great. Because on a local host, it's only on a local host. So if we are in production, so we'll say not equal to production. No, not equal to development. Great. Development. Okay. So it will be true when we are in production. Okay. So we'll say it's secure if this is not equal to development. Okay. So when we go into production, then here will be true, else it will not be true. Okay. We'll say same same site should be strict. Okay, same site to strict. Okay, so that one is done. This one is done to kind of prevent CSRF attacks. Okay, great. Okay, then we also need max age. Great. So max age will be 1 times 24 times 60 times another 60 times 1000 for 1 day. This will give us 1 day, right? Okay, so 1 day, 24 hours, it has 60 minutes, 60 seconds, then 1000 milliseconds to get 1 day, right? Okay, great. Okay, so we're setting our cookies, passing HTTP only to true, and on production we'll send secure to true. On the same site we'll set it to straight, not strict, straight, going to prevent CSRF attacks. Then we're setting the max age to also 1. Okay, great. So okay, so let's import this one here. Great. Make sure it comes with the extension. Great. Okay, so that's it. We are done with that. Great. So how do we also go? Let's go to login quick. Okay. So I duplicate this, then I uncomment this and change this to login. Great. Then I go back and import login. Great. Great. So okay, let's continue. Okay, so login. Now that we have created an account, we need to log in. right? And in login, what are the things we need? We'll be expecting email and password from the user, which will be through the request dot body. Okay, so we'll get the email and password. Okay, so when we get the email and password, we need to make a call to our database, and we'll say that user dot find one. What are we finding with? We're finding with the email, right? Okay, and we will check if the user does not exist. If user not exist, right, we'll send a request, a response to the user that invalid username or password. However, if the user exists, we will check if the user is an admin or not. Sorry, if the user account is active or not. So say if user exists.is active. Yes, I want to believe that's it. If it is not active, we'll just send that user account has been deactivated. Contact the administrator, because you can log in if we deactivate your account. Okay. So if the user account, if the credentials are correct, the email is correct, and the account is also active, then we need to verify the password. So we'll say is match equal to await user dot. So if you remember, we have the match password method on our model, and it accepts the entered password. Great. So we'll pass the password to it. Now, if user exists and is match is true, then we'll perform this action, which we say we'll create JWT and pass the response, as well as pass user dot underscore ID. Then we'll set user dot password to undefined. Great. Then we'll send a response status 200.json. Then we'll pass user. Yeah, pretty simple. Else, so if the user does not, if the password does not match, we'll send a response that invalid email or password. And perhaps we can send invalid password for the user to know that the password is wrong. Okay, so I think we're also done with our login. So let's quickly create the logout. So I will duplicate this again. Oh. I'll duplicate this, go back and uncomment this and copy the name. Come here, uncomment this and put the name here. Great. Okay. So how do we log out? Great. It's fairly simple. So in here, what we will do is that when the user send the request logout, we'll just take the response, right? The response, then cookies, we'll clear the cookies, the cookie. Okay, so we say cookie, then if you remember the name is token, right? Great. And we pass now here. Then we put open an object, and we say HTTP only to true, HTTP to true, then expires to new date. They will pass in 0. Okay, good, meaning it has expired. Okay, then we send a response, res.status. The status will be 200.json message that says log out successful. Okay, great. So we'll just have to reset our cookie and clear everything. That's pretty simple. Okay, Great. So the next one is, how do we get the team members, right? Okay, so I'll copy this, go back and duplicate this, get this. Okay. Okay, so let's go back and import the name, import it, import the function. Okay, so I think our thing is still running and we don't have, we have an error, which is coming from user route, user route. Okay, so let's check it. Logout. Okay, I don't think we imported this. Okay. I think it will work. Good, it's working. Okay, so let's go in here. Okay, so how do we fetch our team members? I think that is also pretty simple. Okay, so in here we'll say cons users, or team, anything. We'll say await user dot find. Okay, fine. Okay, so we'll not put any condition because we want to select all our users. Dot select, we want few fields, we don't want all the fields. Okay, so we'll need the name, we'll need the title, we'll need the role, we'll need email, and is active. Okay, so select. Now it should be this way. Great. So we want to select this, right? So the fields you want, you can put it in like this, or you can totally omit it and you get everything, right? So here we don't want to get a password, we only want to get these fields, right? Okay, great. So once we get that, we can send a response dot status 200 JSON. Then we'll send users. Yeah, great. And that's all. Okay, great. So the next one is we getting the notification, right? Okay, get notification list. So here I'll come, then put the name, notification list, go back and import it. Okay, so just place the cursor in front, then hold Control and space bar to, bring the pop-up in. Hit enter to import it. Okay, so get notification list. Great. Okay, so first we need to get the user ID, because you know that user ID, my keyboard, okay, great. Great. So I want to destructure the user from the request dot user, because if you remember, you see that route is a protected route, right? So it's a protected route. So when it does that, we'll get the user attached to the request, and in there we'll get the user ID, because we need to fetch that particular notification of that particular user. So say cons notice equal to await notice I want to believe the name is notice. Okay, great. Okay, notice. Let me check. .gss. Okay. .jx. Notice. .find. Okay. Now, .find, and we need to check the notifications where the team, right, includes my ID, right? Yes. If my ID is included, then we get it. Okay. We also need to check if it's read or not. Okay. So if you have read the message, there's no need to see it again. If not, then we say this. So user ID. So we'll check that it's read, it's an array, right? So if my ID is not in it, meaning I haven't seen that message. If my ID is in it, then I will not see it, right? Okay. Great. Yes, put it into brackets. Okay. Okay, great. So now I'll say dot populate. What are we going to populate? We'll populate task, right? Great. And what duty do we need? We only need the task title. Okay. So if you need any other thing of the task, you can bring it here. We want to populate the field because if you check, notice, you can see that the task is here, right? So we want to populate the task title. Okay. And once it is true, we'll just send the notice to the user. Okay, great. We're making progress, so we'll move to the next one. Okay, great. So the next one will be this. Update user profile. I'll bring it here, put it, save, go back and import it. Control and space bar. Okay, enter. Great. Okay, great. So here we'll need to get the user ID from our request.user, right? And there is also admin, right? Great. So we'll take also that one. Okay. We'll also take ID. We also take the ID from the request.body because we'll send it. Great. Because the data we're updating that comes will come with this. Okay. So first we'll check if ID is equal to cons ID should be equal to admin. Okay, right. And user ID equal to underscore ID. So we are checking that if the user who is trying to update is an admin and the ID is equal to the data that the user is updating, if that ID is equal to this same ID, meaning that it is my own profile I am updating and I am also an admin. So in that case, they will say that the ID should be equal to user ID, meaning it is my own data I am updating. Else, if I am an admin, so its admin is true, and user ID, the ID which I am logged in, right? I am logged in is not equal to the data I am updating ID, means that I am the admin, but I'm trying to update somebody's profile. In that case, then the ID should be equal to the data I am updating and not my own ID. Else, then the user ID. Okay, so if these two conditions are not true, means that it is a user trying to update his or her own profile and not the admin. So the admin can update his profile, can update somebody's profile, or the normal user can update his or her own profile. So it's a cons user equal to await user dot find by ID. Then we'll pass the ID. Great. So if the record exists, great. So if the record exists, Then we'll try the user.name should be equal to request.body.name. Else, if we don't send that one, then we can pass the old username. So if we send a data from the request, then we pass that. If that one does not exist, then the one we fetch will pass the same thing. Okay. So the next one will be, I'll just duplicate then change this. Email. Okay, I'm not sure we should allow user to update their email. Okay, so title and row. Okay, row. Great. Okay, so we'll say const update user should be equal to await user.save. Okay, so we'll just save the changes, right? And user.password equal to undefined. Then when that is done, we'll just send a response back to the user again. Great. So updated. Okay, great. So we send this that the status is true, the message is updated, and we send the user. Okay. Else if the user does not exist, right, they will just return this. Okay, that user not found. Okay, great. I think so far so good. Let's duplicate this. Okay, what's the next item? Okay, we're making progress. Okay, mark notification as read. Okay, great. Okay, great. So let's check it from here. So now that one will also need to get the user ID. Okay, so we'll get the user ID from our request user because it is a protected route. And we also need to get whether it is read type. And we'll also get the ID through request.query. Okay, so if you check from here, we'll pass some queries. Okay, so queries are different from parameters. Okay, so we'll pass queries. Okay, so we'll get whether the read type, whether it is read or not, then we also get the ID of the notification. Okay, so if its read type is equal to or, meaning that we want to when the user click on mark all as read, right? Yes, we want to provide that option that the user can click on mark all as read without clicking one after the other. So mark all, when it is all, we just want to await notice dot update many. Okay, so update many, we want to say team. You cannot just update anybody's data. So team includes your ID and is read also does not include my ID, user ID. Okay, so we want to make sure that the team has my ID, meaning that I was assigned that, and it's read does not include my ID. Okay. Okay, then what we'll do again is now we'll push my ID into its read. I think I am either missing something. Okay, let me break it down like this. So this and this. Okay. Okay. So okay, so I have extra parenthesis. So this one ought to come here. Okay, so make sure you have the parentheses and the brackets right. Okay, great. And also pass that new to true. So if there is other field we added, it should be true. Okay, great. And if not, meaning that else, await, meaning we just want to update one. So dot find one and update. I want to believe one and update. Okay, that one will see ID should be equal to ID. So we want to find the notification ID should be equal to the ID that is coming, and it's red does not include my ID. Therefore, then we push my ID into is red. User ID. Okay. Then we can put the same thing also there. Okay. Great. Then we'll just send a respond. Yeah, that's all. Done. Okay. So this will help us to update, or when we click on mark all as read, we can update many where the team includes my ID and I haven't read that message, right? If I have read it, it will not update it. And this will also help us to update one where the ID is equal to the notification ID we'll receive through the query. Okay, great. Okay, so the next one is this, that is change password. So come here and put this, save, go back and import it, change password. Okay, so the video is getting long, but let's try and finish the back end in one video. Yeah, so can you bear with me? Okay, so in here we also need to get the user ID from the query.user, and we also find the user by ID if that user really exists, right? And if the user exists, what are we going to do? Good. If the user exists, right, we will change only the password, right? The password that is coming, we'll change the password and pass it to this. Then we save the user. We send the password to undefined. Then we send a message of password has been changed. If the user does not exist, we can inform the person that through user not found for them to know that there is something wrong, right? Great. So really simple. I think we still have more to go. So let me, okay, so what do we have? Okay, so we have this. Now, these are two requests, right? So we are saying that router.route. So router.route, because they all bear the same, have the same endpoint /.id, ID, right? And it's either a put request or a delete request. So here, it's for only the admin. The admin can activate the user or deactivate the user, and can also delete the user, right? So this is for only the admin route. And because we're having the same endpoint, that is why we are saying this. So it will be determined whether when it comes and the route is a a put route, then meaning this handler will be run. And if it comes and it's a delete request, then this. Okay, great. So we'll copy this and go here. And I think maybe I can just also copy the last one And let me duplicate this. Okay. Okay, great. And let's go and import them. Okay, and also import this. Okay, great. So first, let us talk about how to update the user request. What do I mean? Yeah, enable user or yes. So first, we need to get the ID. Okay, so the admin will get the ID through the params, right? So the ID here, we'll get the ID. Okay, so once we get the ID, we'll find the user by the ID, right? So if the user exists, so it is similar to that of the change update password. So I'll just put it here like this. So it is similar. So if the user exists, we'll just change the active status to whatever the admin will send, right? Good. So if the admin send it is true, yeah, we will make it true. If it's false, also false. We can also use the user.active status. And if it is true, we just negate it to false. If it's false, we negate it to true. Whichever one you want, right? So perhaps you can also use this by saying the opposite of this. Great. Opposite of this, right? Great. So that it will just turn it. So if it is true, it will turn it to false. If it's false, it will turn it to true. Okay. Then also set password to false to undefined. Then we send a message of user status, right? Okay, we are not even sending the user, so I don't think this is even necessary, right? Okay, we can remove it, or yeah. So we are sending a message that user account has been. So if the user status is true, right? If it is true, means it's activated. If it is false, it's deactivated. And if we do not find the user, we send that user not found. Okay, let us go work on the last one where we can delete our user. Okay, and that is really simple. Okay, so let me close this. Great. So I'll just paste that one and we move. Okay, so first we'll need to get the ID again. We find by ID and delete it. That's all. We find by ID and delete it. And if it's success, we send user deleted successfully. And that's all. Okay, so these are our user handler, right? Okay, good, great. So now we'll go to another handler, which is task controller. We'll create the controllers in there. Okay, so let me paste this here before I forget it. Okay, so in the routes here, okay, great. So we're going to have the various endpoints. Okay, so we'll have like maybe 10 different endpoints. So first one, I'll just bring first 3, which are all post requests. Okay, so now we have post requests. First one goes to / create. So you go to API, localhost 88,000 / API / tax / create, and it is protected, right? And it is only admin who can create task. The user cannot create task. So admin create task and assign the user. Okay. So now let us go create this user controller, task controller. Okay. Okay, so create. Let me go here, comment this two, and import this. Okay, great. So how do we create task? Okay, I think this also be fairly simple. So first we need to accept the various inputs, right, that the user will enter, which will be in the request.body. Okay, what are those input fields? I should say, what are those fields that we need? We'll need the task title. We'll need the team members. We'll need the stage. We'll need the date. We'll need the priority. We will need the assets. Okay, so these are the various things we'll need. Then we can create a task. Okay, so we'll say const task should be equal to await task task. Okay, task model great here. Task, so await task. It is not, so I think I can import it manually. So import task from dot slash, we go back to models slash task slash task dot js. Okay, great. So tags dot create. Okay, so we create title, team, stage, date, priority, and asset. Okay, now let us make a little changes. Now the stage on our front end, it is capitalized, so we just have to make it small letters here to lower case. Great. And this I think should be capital. Okay, and the same for the priority. Okay, great. So we send this to lowercase. We have something mongoose.model task scheme. Constant is called mongoose. Oh, okay, mongoose is not imported, so let's make sure it's imported. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so now we create it. Now, so first let's say let test. So we need to create also a notification, right? So the test should be equal to new task has been assigned to you. So we want to send a message that new task has been assigned to you. So if task dot team dot length, right, greater than 1, meaning that there are 2, it was assigned to more than 1 person. So if it is more than 1, oh, I think I have changed something here. This needs to be inside here. Great. Great. Okay. So it needs to be inside here. So if it's greater than 1 means that it's 2 or more people, right? So we'll just say then text should be equal to test plus. Then we'll add a string of and okay, so we'll say that it should be new task has been assigned to you and, right, and the length, right, the length minus 1, because so if it's then let me change this statement to others. Okay, so if the length is 2, then it will be like you and one other. If it's 3, because we'll minus 1 from the 2. If it's 3, so you and 2 others, right? Great, something like that. That is basically the idea behind it. Yeah, you can, I mean, write anything of your preference. Okay, So now let us add something more. So we'll add this, that the text again, right? After we adding this, we want to append more text to it. To say the text should be equal to the text that we have from here should be that so I can put full stop here. You say that the task priority is set to that we get the priority of the text, right? So if it's high or low priority, so check and act accordingly. The task date is also set, then we get the date of the task. Thank you. So you can put whatever message you want, and now we can create the notification by saying await notice dot create. Okay, so we put the theme, put the test, and the task will be task dot underscore id. Okay, great. Let me check if it's imported notice.js. Okay, great. Then we'll send a response. Okay, we send a response that the task has been created. Okay, great. So task created successfully. Okay, I think so far so good, right? Okay, so if you don't, I suggest go over it again. I think you get it. Okay, so let us create another handler. So on comment this and comment not user route here. Okay, let me bring this one here. Great. So here, this one. Okay, so the function to duplicate task. Okay, so how do we duplicate task? Okay, so that one we'll have to get the task ID from the params, right? The ID here, we get a task ID. Then we need to find the task, right? I wait task dot find by ID. Okay, find by ID, or it should be inside a try. Okay, great. So find by ID, and once we get a task, we can say const task. Let's say new task. Oh no, new task should be equal to task.create, right? Create. Then we'll just spread the old task and change the title to task.title. Then no, duplicate. So we can say task.title class duplicate. Okay. Okay, so we just want to append the word duplicate to the title so that we know that this is the duplicated task. Aside that, all other details will be the same. Okay, great. And there are also other details that we need to get. So say new task dot team, right, should be equal to task dot team. Okay, great. So new task dot team, and I'll just bring the rest. So the new task, when I did it this way, the team and the other stuff were not saving. I mean, those that were an object and array were not saving. So I did this way. Okay, so the new task team should be the old one. The team will push it into it. Also the subject, which will be, I mean, have subdocuments in it, we also push it. The asset will push it, and the priority will also do the same, as well as the stage will push it into it. Okay, then once done, we can await new task dot save. Okay, great. And also when done, we can send the same alert message and create a message. So I'll just copy that, the same notification star, and bring it. So we'll just create a message that, yeah, new task has also been assigned, the same thing like the one we did up above, right? And yes, so we'll also create a notification and assign the new task ID instead of the old one, the new task ID, and put it there and put the test. Yeah, that's okay, great. So that's it. Okay, so the next one will be activity. We post activity. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, in here we'll also need to get so we'll get the ID through params, we get the user ID through the request, and we get the type and the activity itself through the body, request body. Okay, so once we get that, we need to find a task, which is simple like this. So we find tags by the ID, which is here, coming here, right? We find the tags by ID. Okay, then we can also create data and save it. Okay, so then we create an object of called data where we pass the type is the type that is coming, the activity is the activity, and by is equal to the user ID here, and we just say task.activity.push, right? So we have the tags up here. So we create this object and we want to push into it. We want to push into the activities, the data object we have created. Okay, so we push it, then we save the task. Okay, then we can communicate back the status by this, sending a response that activity has been posted successfully. Okay, great. So I'll bring the next set of routes. Okay, great. So I will first comment this two and go on this. Now, how do we get the dashboard details? Let me comment on this. Okay, it is not complicated, you know. Okay, so here, let me import it. Okay. Okay, so in here, great, let's begin. So as usual, I will need to get the user ID and also whether it is admin or not, right, through the request.user. Okay, so when we get that, now we can fetch from our database. So we need to fetch all task. My bad. Was it cons all tasks equal to, we need to determine if you are admin or not. If you are admin, you can see all the tasks. But if you are a user, you see only tasks assigned to you, right? So if admin is true, okay, if it's true, we'll say I wait task.find. Then let us pass various options, right? Great. Else, okay, I'll put this here so that we'll know. Okay. So let us go into this. Now let us pass various options. If you are admin, we'll pass that is trashed should be false. So we don't want to add the trash items to the dashboard statistics, right? So we will only not fetch that one. So aside that, we'll fetch all, right? Okay. Okay. So dot here, we'll say populate. What are we populating? Okay. So we'll put the path. The path should be team. The path theme, and the select will be, we'll select the name, we'll select the role, we'll select the title, and we'll select the email from team. Right, great. Then we can sort it. So sort, we'll sort it on the basis of the ID. It should be from the biggest, meaning the recent one, will come first, right? Okay, great. So if you are not an admin, then what do? We find task.find. Then also let us begin to add some match options. So it's trashed also to false, great, and we'll check the team in which you belong to. The team in which you belong to. So we want to get all which you are a member. Okay, great. So we'll get all the records in which your ID is in the team. So if your ID is not in the team, then you do not qualify to get that. Okay. So this portion, it's also the same. So I'll just copy and bring it here. Great. And we'll also populate, the user details, the name, the role, the title, and the email, and also sort it. Okay. So now that we have it, we can now perform various actions actions on it. So let me toggle it like this. We can also fetch users equal to await user dot find, where is active is to true. So we want to only fetch where is active is true, and the various field we want to select are the name, the title, the role is admin, and created at date. Yes. Okay, so we want to limit it to only 10 records. We don't want to fetch all, and also do sort by ID from the recent one, so -1. So if we put 1, then it'll be like the last one will come first. Okay. Okay. So now let us group a task. So now we want to group task, right, by stage, and also calculate counts. Okay. So now let's say cons group task equal to all group tasks equal to all task, right? Great. So we're going to use the reduce function, right? And when we use it, we get the result and task. Okay, so we do results and task. Then yeah, okay, great. So in here, we'll first get the stage. The stage should be equal to task dot stage. Okay, so we'll get the stage of the task, right? And so that if result, right, then we pass the stage to it, because we have different stages. So result dot stage. Okay, so if results dot stage does not exist, so not, right? If it does not exist, then we'll push result stage, put result stage, okay, should be equal to 1, meaning it's a new one. So we are now adding it fresh, so it should be 1, else then meaning it exists already. So stage should be equal to plus 1. Okay, so what we are doing is that we want to calculate the count. So if result or state does not exist, then we create it and equate it to 1. If it exists already, then we add 1 to it. Okay, great. And we will return result. Okay, great. And here we also have dependency. We have, okay, great. We have this. Okay, so what we are doing is we first check if group, we use the reduce function, right? If you use the reduce function, and you see, you can read about it here. So we get the various options into it here, right? So we assign the stage, and the result that we will return we check if the stage does not exist, we create a new one and equate it to 1. If it exists, we just add 1. So we're just doing the various count options. I mean, just to count it and get the total for each stage. Okay. So we're also going to do grouping by the priorities. Okay. Okay. So we'll do grouping by priorities. Okay. So that one also will say group data should be equal to now object dot entries. Okay. Then we'll pass in the all task, right? Dot we use the same reduce function. So we get result and we get task. Great. Like we did up there, we can get the priority equal to task dot priority. We can even destructure it like this, also like this. Yes, great. And as we did, so result, now result, I get priority. Great. Result, yes. Square bracket should be equal to result square bracket priority. Priority, great. Priority. Or 0. Okay, so it should be this. Great. Plus 1. Okay. Okay, so if it does not exist, right? So if this does not exist, it will be priority of the result, right? Whether it is normal or if it does not exist, then we'll pass 0, then we add 1. If it exists, then we add 1 to it also. Great. So this is also another way. Then we can return result. Okay. Return result. And here we have it like this. Great. Now, because we want to, now we will map over the result that we're returning, and we'll get, we do name and total, and we'll return an object of name and total. Now we'll use this for our dashboard, and we want it to be in the format of name and total, right? So whether the name will be either high, low, or whatever. Yes. So that's why after we using the reduce function, we map over it again and return it in this particular format, right? Okay. So in this format, that's how we will return it. Okay, great. If we don't want it in that format, we can just remove the dot map function. Okay. Now, the next one is we'll calculate total tasks. Okay, great. So we'll calculate the total task. Okay, so how do we calculate the total task? So we can say cons total total task should be equal to all tasks dot length. We can also say last 10 tasks should be equal to all tasks dot slice. So we want to slice from 0 to the 10th item. Something is wrong. What is our issue? Expected, comma, I think we missed one of the parentheses here. So you need to have two parentheses here, right? Then two also here. Okay, after the curly braces, two here. After this curly braces, also two here, right? And this one, it's outside of this. Okay, great. Yes, like this. Okay, great. So now we have the total and we have the last 10 items. Okay, so we can say summary, cost summary should be equal to, then we put all together. So total task, total task, total task. Oh, okay. So this should be this, great. Total task and last 10 task. Users, we'll check that if it's admin, right, it's true, they will send the users, else we'll send an empty array, right? Yes, great. If it is the normal user, we don't send the users. You can see them, right? If it is the admin, then you have access to that. We also get tags should be equal to group data. Now this should be group task, great. Then I'll pass the graph data as the group data, great. Great. So now let's send the response. So response dot status dot 200 dot JSON. Okay. So status will be true, and we can spread the summary and also put a message which says successful. You can leave the message if you don't want to put it. Three. Okay, not four. Great. Let me put this to top. Okay, and I think that's all for the dashboard. Okay, so let us go to the next one, which is this. Okay, so okay, so now let us work on this. How do we get all the tasks? It's very simple. Okay, so get task. First, we need to get we'll get stage, and we get is trashed. Okay, great. And this will be coming from the request dot query. Okay, so when the user sends the query, we'll get the stage and also get whether it is trashed or not. Okay, so let's say let query be equal to, that we open is trashed, right? Should be equal to is trashed. If is trashed is true, then we send true. We send true, else we send false. Okay, so is trashed. We'll check if this one is true or not. If this one exists, I mean, because we'll just send a string, so we'll check the string. If the string exists, we send true, else we send false. Okay, let's also check if the stage exists. If there is a query stage, then we'll just add query.stage, right, equal to stage. Okay, so if it does not exist, we will not add it. Now let's query result be equal to task.find. Then we pass the query that we have formed, we pass it. Okay, so let us do populate. So the path, what are we populating? We'll populate the team, right? Okay, we populate the team. And what are the various of fields that we'll need? We'll need the name, we'll need the title, and we'll need the email. Okay. And let us also do sorting. So sort it by the ID, -1. So the recent one will be the first item. Okay. So now, what can we say? We can say const task should be equal to await, then query result. Okay. Now let us send a response to status 200, then JSON. We can say status to true, then task. Okay, great. Okay. Let's duplicate this for the next one. And the next one is, let's import this. Okay, the next one is get a single task. Okay, so how do we get a single task? Okay, so how do we get a single task? So one, we need to get the ID. So if you check, you can see that there is okay, so this, let me uncomment it and see if, okay, so you see this ID here. So we get the ID from request.param. Okay, we get the ID. They will say const task task should be equal to await task.find by ID. Then we pass the ID, right? Okay, dot populate. Okay, so we populate the path, we populate the team with select of name, title, row, and email. Okay, then we want to change it again with another populate. This time, what are we populating? We want to populate activities by. So if you check, okay, so if you check, you see that we have activities, and in the activities there is the by. So we want to populate that, and what are we selecting? That one to select only the name, right? Only the name. Okay, great. Then let us sort the data by ID. So great. Okay, then I think we can send the response. Okay, great. Okay, so I will copy and paste the next set of actions so that we move quickly. Okay, so these are all put request, right? Okay, great. So I'll copy this name, go here, uncomment this comment. Okay, so now let us work on this. How do we create a subtask? Okay, so that's simple. So first we need to get the title, the tag, and the date, as well as get the ID of the subtask. If you check, you see we get ID here. Okay. Okay, so we get the ID here. Now when we get the ID, we need to create the object, right? So like we did before, we'll create an object of subtask which will contain the title, the date, and the tag. Okay, now we need to fetch. Okay, so we'll first fetch the task, right? We'll fetch the task by the ID. Then in the subtask, we push the subtask that we have created here, right? Perhaps we can give it a name like new subtask. Okay, maybe something like this so that you not be confused. then we push the new subtask into it, right? Then we save it. Okay, so once we save it, we can communicate back by sending a response of success, status 200, right? Okay, that's very simple. Okay, the next one is this: how to update the task. Oh no, not here, here. Okay, great. Okay, so how do we update task? Also, we'll need the various fields, right? So we'll destructure from our body. We'll first get the ID through the params here. Also the ID is here. So we first get the ID through the params, then we destructure the various, the title, the date, the team, stage, and we get all this. And once we get it, we need to fetch the task. We fetch the task by ID, and now we begin to do changes. Okay. Okay, so okay, so now when we fetch the tags, right? So now we have the tags here, and the title should be the title that is coming, the date the same, priorities to this, and the assets to that is coming, and also this and that, right? Then we save it. Okay, then we communicate. That's all. Let's import it, and now how we can trash task. Okay, so I'll put trash tags here and import it from here. Great. Okay, so with that one, we just have to change okay, we just need to change the status. So first we need to get the ID, right, from request.params. Great. Once we get it, we can we fetch the task, right? Then we change the extras to true, then we save it. That's simple. Okay, great. And okay, so I think that's also important. And we are left with, I think, one last one, which is to delete task. Okay, which is to delete and also restore task, right? This is to delete and restore task. So I'll just go here and uncomment this, since I think it's the last handler to create. Great. Okay, and how do we go about that? Okay, so first we need to get okay, so we need to get the ID, then we need to get the action type, because if you remember, even from the endpoint delete and restore, we will use it to delete or restore task, right? Okay, so first we need to check. Okay, so first let us check if action type, right, is equal to delete. Okay, so the action type can be delete, right? Else it can also be equal to action type can also be equal to delete, or yes, delete all. Okay, so I will copy this part and put it here again. I think, yeah, it can also be restore, or it can also be restore all. Okay, so we'll use it for this 4 actions. Okay, so now let's begin from here. So when it is delete, we just have to, meaning we are deleting one. So task dot find by ID and delete. Great. Then we pass the ID, as simple as that. ID. Great. So this will delete the task. Now when it is delete all, how do we delete all? Okay, so when it is delete all, then meaning the task ID is not important, right? Okay, so if you check from here, you see that we appended a question mark to it, meaning that this can be provided or not. It's optional. So we can go to the endpoint of restore and delete restore without providing the ID. It will be accepted because this is optional parameter. Okay. Let me import it straight. Okay, great. Okay, so when we want to delete or meaning we will not need the ID. So we just say await the task dot delete many. Great. Delete many where is trashed is true. So if you click delete all, means that you want to delete all that is in the trash. So we will delete all tags where there is trash is true. Okay. Now how do we restore it? Okay. So say cons result. Yeah. Okay, so result should be equal to await task dot find by ID. Okay, so first find by ID, and we'll say response dot is trashed to false. Then we'll say response dot save. Great. And when it is many, how do we do all? We'll just say await task dot updates many. Great. And we provide we'll say is trash is true, where is trash is true, right? Good. And we'll change it to set. What are we setting? We're setting is trashed to false. Okay, great. Then we just have to send a response in all the cases that the action has been performed successfully. Great. Okay, so I think this is the end. We can just test it and see. So I'll try and open my Postman. We can test the various. We'll not be able to test all, but I think we'll try and test some and see, so that you have a fair idea of how you can do the testing. Okay. Okay, so if I open my database and I go to okay, if you click on database and go to collection, you can see that we have, okay, so we have the database name here and the various Postman and the various tables and the various tables are created in here. And as you can see, they are all empty for now. Yeah, empty and empty. Okay, so okay, so I will come here and I think I have this task, so I'll use it. Okay, so let me use this. Okay, so just create a new you can just click on and create a new environment, right? Or I mean, you can also go straight from here. Yeah. Nah, I'm not going to save that. I don't know what is that. Let's see. Don't show again. Okay. Okay, so I will use this. I think I'll go first to register and just put your URL here, right? Okay, so actually I have set an environment. So just go to environment, right? When you go to environment, you can add a new environment. So I have this environment And in the environment, I set up a base URL, right? A base URL, and the basic URL is equal to localhost 88,000/API, right? Good. So you can set up a base URL like this. And so when you come here, just make sure that here, you click here and select the environment. So I selected Tax Manager. So I just have to put curly braces, then inside it, I put the base URL / then I add the other endpoints. Okay, so this is a post request. So make sure you select a post request. You go to the body, and in the body you select raw, and make sure you select JSON here, JSON. Okay, so now we have email, we have name, we have is admin to true, we have password, we have row as admin, and we have title as administrator. Okay, so let's send it and see if our backend will respond. So let's send it. Okay, great. So now we have received a feedback. Okay, we have received the data back, meaning it has been created. Okay, so we can go into our users and make sure you reload or refresh it. Okay, great. And now we have it here. The password has been hashed. Everything it's working as expected. Okay, everything, I think it's working as expected. And if you check, okay, if you check the console here, you can see that we hit this endpoint and it is success 200. So far so good. Okay, great. Okay, what again will we need? Let us try to log in. Okay, and see. Okay, I open my Postman again. So if you check cookies here, you see that one cookies is set. Yes, and the name is token. This is the value, right? And the domain is on localhost, right? Yes, and the date that it will expire, it's here, right? Great. It will expire tomorrow. Okay, great. And HTTP only is set to true, and secure is set to false. Okay, so let us try our handlers and see if I send this and I go to, okay, let me go here. So now I think you can see that we have type error, which is this. Let me set it to JSON. What is JSON? Not a function. I think there is something wrong. Okay, so I'm getting request.status is not a function, and I want to believe it's coming from of the error handler here. Okay, great. So we have errors here. Okay, so post this false. So here, this is not a function, and it is coming from error middleware line 16. So maybe I can just click on this. This. Okay, request.status. Okay, let me quickly cross check. Okay, let's check again. Let me check again and see. Okay, okay, so now we'll get a message that route not found, API/user just not found, like that, rate. So I mean, we're getting it here too, that it is not found, right? Okay, so this route does not exist. Actually, oh, it was supposed to be okay, it's supposed to be request and not response, right? Okay, great. It's supposed to be response, not request, right? Great. Okay, so now we can create account and let us try login. Okay, so we can create other users, right? So I can put here to say user one, right? And I'll put the name also as user one, right? User one. Okay. And it's admin. Let me change it to false. Okay. And also password. The role is, let's say, developer. And title should also be developer. Okay. So let me send it and see. And hopefully, yes, we also get a response here. Okay, great. So let us try to log in. So let me go back to my collection. Okay. Okay, so I'll go to great. I'll go to login. First, let me do logout, right? So I'll add another request in here, right? Okay, so add request. I'll add another request. Oh, my thing is slow. I don't know why, but let's manage. Okay. Okay. So the logout is also a post request. So I'll just say this URL. Great. It goes to the endpoint is log out. Okay. And I don't think we have to provide anybody. We can check. We can check from here. Here, logout does not accept anything. Okay, great. Okay, so let's just send the request. And okay, you notice we have cookies. The cookies. If they are good, if you click on these cookies, you notice we have one cookies here, right? Okay, so we'll see if it will work or not. Send logout, and it is logged out. So if we click here, you see that the cookies is gone. Okay, great. Now let's try the login and see if it will work. Login. Login. You don't need all of this. You only need yes. You don't need this. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, it's also a post request, and the endpoint is user/login. Okay, make sure body, raw, and JSON, and send a request. Says that invalid email or password. Okay, invalid email or password. I've forgotten the email, but let's check from our database. So the email is admin. Now this, it's here. Okay, admin@gmail.com. I think so. So admin@gmail.com, and I think the password is 1234. Let's see. Go. And we're getting the same thing. Admin. Nah, Gmail. Okay. Send. And user password is not a function. Okay, so we're getting user dot match password is not a function. Okay, great. Meaning we are logged in. However, we're getting error at the password match function, right? Where we want to check the password. So this here, we're getting an error here. So let us go to the user schema and check, right? Okay. Method dot match password. Okay, let's quickly check it. Okay, so it's supposed to be methods. Methods. Okay, so user schema dot methods dot match password, and I want to believe it's the same spellings. Okay. Okay, let's go try it and see if it will work. Let's send again. Great, and we are logged in successfully, and you can see there is another token also here. Okay, great. So let us try to let me create another folder folder that will say tax. I think my machine is slow, so after I create one task and get all tasks, I think I'll end. Then you can continue. I mean the rest, right? Task. Okay, great. Okay, close some of these things. Log out. Okay. Okay, great. So let me add a request. A request. Okay, so the request will be create task. Okay, that's the name. Here, okay, I'll change the endpoint to task/create. I want to believe that is it. Go to body and go to raw and JSON. Okay, so if you go, you know that in the task request, create task. Okay, great. We'll need title, right? So I'll just copy this things and in the JSON here, right? I'll just paste them like this. Okay. So the title will be test tax. Okay. So the user, I mean, this can be an array if I remember. So I'll just go to the database and copy my ID. Okay, I'll copy this and I think and put it inside, and I'll copy the second user. Okay, and also put it here. And the stage, let us mark it as to do. Great. This should be a string. This should also be a string. Great. And the date, okay. I don't know about the date. I think we can leave it because we set it to default of today. So I mean, let's leave it. And the priority, we set it to high, right? Okay. So all of this should be string. They should be in quotation, right? And this asset, I think let's not add asset now because I'll not get any assets. And it is also a post request. So change it to a post request. Let's hope it works. And we are say not authorized. Try login again. Okay. So here and okay, friends, let us continue. So I've found out what the problem was. Okay, so let's fix it together. Okay, so go to the auth middleware, and this thing here is supposed to be maybe I can put it to the same line. Okay, this is supposed to be cookies, not cookies. Okay, and also if you check, you can see that we only have the if statement. There's no else. So if this thing does not exist, nothing will be returned. Okay, so we need to bring an else statement. So I'll just paste this. So just say else, then return response, right, with a status of 401 and a message that you are not authorized. Okay, great. I also made a few changes to the create controller, right? So go into controllers and where we create task. So if you check, what I have done is that now I am destructuring the user ID, right? Because when you go into the controller, you see that you we'll check this, right? So we'll get your ID. So when we get the ID, we first want to create the message, right? Yes, because we want to create also the activity. We want to add a default activity, because if we don't add, because we have set here we have types to be default. This will be set, so you see that an activity will be created with the default assigned and just date, and the assigned by will not be there, as well as the activity itself will not be there. So for that reason, we want to create activity ourselves, right? So the message here, so just remove, because the task is not created yet, so just remove the task and refer to the object that we are distracting from here. So just say team.length, also team.length here, right? And also just change this to priority, and here wrap it in new date, then just pass the date to it, then dot string. I hope you understand. New date into bracket date, then behind the bracket you put dot string, dot date string to date string. Yes, great. Then create an object called activity, and say the type should be assign, the activity itself should be the test, right? And by should be the user ID. And in this, where we are creating the user, sorry, when we are creating the task, we'll pass activities as activity. Okay, great. So that's the changes I also made to this. So kindly update your code as such. Okay, so if you fix all this right, I believe it should work. Okay, so we'll create task. We say task. I created, I think, 2 already. So I'll just say test task 3, right? Okay, I'll just put YouTube, right? Okay, great. And I'll change this date to 2, then this to, okay, great. So now let's send and see. Okay, make sure you are logged in into the admin account. Okay, it's taking time as well. Okay, so it's running here, and auth middleware. Okay, I don't think, did we save this? Okay, so make sure you save the changes, change this to cookies, and also add the else part here. Great. Okay, so now let's try again. Great. So now you see that it has returned this. Okay, so I think we can also return in the controller, we can return maybe the task itself, right? Yeah, so if you wanted, you can return the task. Okay, great. Okay, so I mean the post works now. So now we'll try, let's try to get post, then we'll also try to delete one post. Okay, great. Okay, so YouTube, I'm going to put 2 and see if it goes through again. It goes through, and now it is returned. So now you can see that we have the activity here, right? Great. So I created another tab. Okay, so just /tags, base UI /tags, and we get a get request, we fetch our post. Okay, so now we can fetch our post. So this is 1, 2, I created 2 already. Great. Okay, I think I created 2 of it already. Yeah, so it is here, it's getting fetched. So now let me duplicate this and see if we can delete one. Okay, so which of them should I delete? Let me just get an ID of one. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so let me get an ID of one of the tasks and go to the duplicated and just change it to delete task. Okay, so delete task, and if you remember, it goes to task delete dash restore, and let's check the parameters that we need to pass. Okay, delete restore, then the ID, right? And if you go inside, I think we needed to pass some query that is action type, so we'll pass delete. Okay, so we'll pass slash the ID, then slash no question mark action type, and I'll put delete. Okay, and this it's what type of request? what type? Okay, it's a delete request. Okay, so delete request, delete, great, and let's hope it works. Great, says that operation performed successfully. Great, as expected. So now when we go, we should see this tax should go. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we should get 4. Okay, let's send and see. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, great. So it has been deleted. Okay, so I think you can follow suit in that same direction and test other models. We'll meet in the next episode where we'll integrate both the front end and the back end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.